Term toxic masculinity comes up a lot these days, but women took to Reddit to talk about when they faced toxic femininity from other women, like being told to act like a lady or getting bullied by other moms. Is this something you are aware of?
No, wait.
So what's on tap for today, folks? Well, you saw it right there. It's another my video reaction to the Cackling Hens of The View, which I affectionately call the rear view. Why? Because of the verbal diarrhea that these lovable ladies of the left, these lunatics, are always shouting about. And today, we're going to not talking about toxic masculinity, which is a subject that these people continue to just, attack all the time, toxic masculinity. But this time, they're talking about toxic femininity. So folks, we're going to continue with my reaction, but if you haven't already done so, just wanted to let you know, please, we'd really hope that you subscribe. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Sheikh Show, and I'm your host, Dr. Nasir. And hit that notification bell so you get notified of all of our other content and all the other videos, the series that we have of what we affectionately call the rear view. Anyways, folks, let's go to my reaction. We're going to go to that right now.
Yeah, apparently the term toxic masculinity comes up a lot these days, but women took to Reddit to talk about when they faced toxic femininity from other women, like being told to act like a lady or getting bullied by other moms. Is this something you are aware of?
Okay, there was a cackling, right? Now, have I not been apropos about the cackling from the hens? I mean, there you go. There's one of the head cluckers right there. Ana Navarro, the Latinx, rhino, Republican in name only, conservative on The View, right? I mean, she's supposedly portraying our viewpoint. Is that really what's going on here? Ana Navarro is portraying your viewpoint? Is she really doing that, folks? Is she? Is she portraying my viewpoint? I don't really think so. The only thing I hear all these guys do is continue to cackle, but let's continue on.
No, wait, before we begin, let me tell you something. I think we have a legal note from the werewolves.
These guys are always in legal jeopardy, folks. That's what the little playful thing with the, the lawyer comment is about, because they continue to make statements. They continue to make, it's not really opinions because they present it as fact, as factual events that are occurring. It's not their thoughts, it's not their opinions. They actually present these as their factual things that were going on, and they've been called out on it by various amounts of people. And that's exactly what we've always been talking about. When you are basically being libeled or slandered or whatever the case may be, you have got to decide, do you want to play offense or defense? Defense means you just sit back and you take it and you don't do anything about it. Offensively in politics, offensively to protect your name, to protect your rights, to protect your family, what you need to do basically is to protect your integrity, all right? You need to go on the offense. So you need to basically say, if somebody is libeling you, somebody is slandering you, then you need to basically let them know. And the best way of doing that is through the legal course of action, the remedies that we have, which is the judicial system. Let them know that they need to stop lying about the statements that they're making about you or your company or whatever it is that they're doing, and use the legal process to, basically get them scared to back off, unless they can prove the allegations, prove what they're basically saying. And they, in the view, the rear view, they've had to back off a lot, folks, a lot. Let's continue.
No, I think it is real, though. We've come a long way in kind of critiquing some of the male practices that are not helpful.
Some of them, you're critiquing some of them. First of all, I'm just absolutely shocked that the rear view would even take up this subject, because this is a very, very touchy subject among feminists, whether they're first wave, second wave, third wave, fourth wave, fifth wave, whatever wave they're at. This is a pretty touchy subject. So to bring this thing up, for them to bring this topic up may put them on the opposite side of those feminists for this question. And so they've got to be very careful as to how they answer, to basically, they don't want to be seen as part of the patriarchal system. They don't want to be seen as saying, well, there is nothing as toxic femininity. There's nothing like that at all. They have to completely decide on which side of the equation, which side of this question are they going to fall on. So let's continue.
And that needed to be called out. And I think that women have made a ton of progress, but we can also be each other's worst enemies. It's still the case, and I hate to say it.
Wow, there she said it, folks. Women can still be our own worst enemy. She is not going to be scoring any points with the progressives, the liberals, the moderates, none of those, and especially not on the feminists, because that's the thing that they want to basically what? That's right. Zip your lip, shoot from the hip.
Some of the worst bosses I've had have been women, and sometimes...
Oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy, oh, boy. Some of the worst bosses. This is not going to play well at all, folks. Some of the worst bosses that I've ever had in my life. I don't know if she ever made a comment like that about the men who may have been the boss in her life, but she just absolutely drove the bus over and over and over again on this comment here.
Colleagues in the workplace who are women. And I always think of the Madeleine Albright quote.
Well, that's what happens when you work with Kellyanne Conway.
Oh, there's a shot across the bow, right? That's what happens when you work with Kellyanne Conway. Now, here's the thing, folks. Look at the toxic femininity that exists right now on this panel, on The View, with all these cackling hens. They can't get along with each other. And they basically say there's no such thing as toxic femininity. Of course there's toxic femininity. There's a lot. There's much more toxic femininity, I'll tell you what, folks, than there is toxic masculinity. If you had to measure it on a scale, toxic femininity would be like, that scale would be pressed so far down with toxic femininity. It's not even close, folks. And this just goes to prove the point. Here you had Kellyanne Conway, who was the first time ever that a woman was put in charge of a presidential candidate, of a presidential run for the White House. And the first time that a woman was put in front of that, put right out in front of everything, in the center of it. I mean, everything was basically on her shoulders with Kellyanne Conway, the pressure, everything. This should have been applauded by everybody, whether you're on the right or the left. Yeah, you lost, but at least you could applaud the fact. But you know what? They can't even do that, folks. They can't even applaud that. They can't even applaud that. And why? Because to applaud that a conservative woman or woman that doesn't have the same thought process, the same diversity of opinions, their own thoughts, their own opinions. See, the problem that happens, folks, is that with Democrats and liberals and progressives and leftists, they all talk about diversity, inclusion, equity, equality, right? But that's not what they want. Only if you agree with them. Then it's okay to have diversity. Then it's okay to have inclusion. Then it's okay to have, equality and equity. But if you have a different opinion, then guess what? Your diversity doesn't matter then. There's no diversity then. All right? So here, Ana Navarro basically says to Alyssa, hey, that's what happens when you work with Kellyanne Conway. Instead of giving Kellyanne Conway the props to say, look, we might have been on different sides. I didn't agree with President Trump. I didn't agree with his policies. I don't agree with the man. I don't like him or whatever. But she still was the first woman to ever successfully run a presidential campaign and win. But these ladies, that's what happens when you have toxic femininity, folks. That's what happens.
I mean, well, I can't really get a word in without you attacking me, so I wouldn't say this is a...
Whoa, I can't get it really in a word without you attacking me, right? She goes right after Anna. Oh, I love this. She went right after Anna. She didn't take it sitting down. She went right after her.
Totally different. This isn't like a totally different environment of women's...
Oh, this is like a totally different environment. I mean, she just basically said exactly what I was talking about. That there is a bunch of toxic femininity on even the view that these ladies can even, get together because they're just so, supposedly they're opposite. I mean, Alyssa is a rhino, a Republican in name only. There are some times when she does come over to the right side, the conservative side, but mostly she stays on the moderate, the progressive side, because that's where they feel that they need to be, because they don't want to be, neglected by their friends. They don't want to be neglected by the media. They don't want to be have the media, come after them basically and say, hey, what are you doing? So what they would rather do is basically go with the crowd, throw in a couple of points in there for the conservatives to say, oh, yeah, I'm still with you. But 98, 99% of the time, they're still moderate, they're still progressive. They're part of that, John McCain, crowd, the moderates trying to see if they can cross over the aisle. You give me a little bit, I'll give you a little bit, but that never happens. Let's continue.
Supporting each other. But Madeleine Albright's always said, there's a special place in hell for women who don't help and support other women. Right. And it's something I try to live by. I think that we have a duty to kind of give that back, especially for the women who come after us.
I think there's a big divide. I felt it between working moms and stay-at-home moms. There's a lot of judgment, and I think that it's based in like insecurity and judgment, jealousy, actually. But a lot of it's subtle. A lot of it's like, you're wearing that.
She's being very truthful here. There is a lot of judgment. It's really judgmental. Women are judgmental of each other. And I think to a greater extent, it's a different kind of judging, a different kind of judgmental attitude, I think, that men have, obviously, personality, psychology, all of that, than men do. And she's alluding to that fact right here.
That kind of stuff. But ultimately, I think, just to be a little contrarian, I think I've been supported so much by women, that I don't want to...
Now, after she makes that comment, she has to come back with something because, she doesn't want to get the blowback, all right, from the progressives and the moderates and the other feminists out there. So she sort of went with the flow and said, yes, there is something a little bit, okay, you're forcing me to say it's a little bit of toxic femininity, a little bit. But let's get back and let's say that, but there's the good stuff too.
Side of that, I was just thinking about an example. I was on the air one day, I was making fun of myself, something self-deprecating about I'm too FAT, I don't like to say the word, or whatever. And Robin...
I mean, this is so stupid. You can't say the word fat. I'll say it for you. Fat. Can't say the word. These people, they just continue to cackle.
Roberts turned to me and said, don't beat yourself up like that. Mm-hmm. Don't do that. And don't do that on the air. I was like, you're right. It was just like a light bulb moment.
You just did. So I guess your light bulb is a little bit dim.
And I thought it was nice. And just to be further contrarian, I feel like there's so much more toxic masculinity that's holding women back.
There you go. Boom. A zinger. All right. We talked about enough of toxic femininity. All right. There's some in there. But the worst part, the worst is toxic masculinity.
Back, but I think it exists for sure.
Well,
we can't deny it.
No, I have to say,
for sure.
You've been just so supportive of all the women on this show because you've accomplished so much and we're all coming up.
Here she goes. Okay, KYA, kissing Whoopi's butt, right? Alyssa, here she goes. She's gonna kiss Whoopi's butt. Whoopi, you've done so much for us, for women. You've really been there for a lot of us. You've been the pathway. You've been the gateway. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Under you and just looking up to you. And I think I'm glad you said that because women support women more than they don't, but I think it's worth acknowledging when we are hard on each other.
Well, yeah, I think that's right. Just to be real about it, for real.
I went to an all-girls school, and that's made such a difference in my life because I went to the Sacred Heart, and those nuns instilled a sense of sisterhood. There's a sisterhood in the Sacred Heart, and there's also the sense that we could do anything and be anything we wanted to be.
Right.
And but one of the things that does bother me though is I've seen women who do things like get on boards. And, you know, there's a big announcement, oh, the first woman on this board. And if they're a Latina woman, it bothers me even more. And then they get on there and they don't pull up other women. So I think that when, you know, Kamala.
Well, maybe Anna Navarro, maybe the other woman that you're talking about, that they're not pulling up, maybe they're not to that caliber. Maybe they're not to that level. We don't know. Why is it that they have to be decided upon someone's sex, someone's gender? And then I thought you people always said that, you know, what is a woman? You don't know what a woman is. You can't even make that distinction. So how do we know who to promote? If suppose a woman promotes another woman, what if that woman isn't really a woman? It's really a man, a trans man, that's dressing as a woman, and now we promote her, him, you know, then what are you going to say? Is that going to be okay with you? I mean, come on, you can't have it both ways.
Kamala Harris always says, you know, you can be the first, but make sure you're not the last.
Yeah.
And I think we have that responsibility in the children.
Well, you know,
The cackling, the hands.
if I
the
cared
cackling
what other
bodies.
people thought about me, I would probably have a lot of the same thoughts. But the bottom line is this. First, you got to believe. If you don't believe, it doesn't matter what else. I could be as supportive as I could, but if you don't believe you deserve it, you're not going to listen. You know, that's the first thing. The second thing is we allow all these people, I'm not pointing to y'all, I'm just saying all.
Now, Whoopi said she wasn't pointing to y'all. Well, I'm going to point to you, Whoopi, and Anna, and Alyssa, and the guest host there. I'm pointing to you guys because you guys are part of the Cackling Hens. And you guys are part of this narrative. You are part of this toxic femininity. You are talking above each other, not, you know, down to each other. You're talking at each other. You're talking behind each other. You're doing all these things, all right? So don't try to play this game that it's not y'all, because it is y'all.
These people to say to us the most horrific stuff on social media. These are people who don't know us, don't know anything about our families, don't know anything about our lives, and we believe what they say.
Now, I have to ask you, why do you believe that? Why should that hurt you? I mean, you read comments. I guess for some people, like I said, their psychological makeup may be different, their personality makeup may be different. But if you're entering the sphere in social media, if you're entering in the sphere of politics, if you're entering in the sphere of political punditry or social media punditry, or you're just putting yourself out there and you're making statements, you've got to be able to take the statements that come back at you, good and bad. And even the ones, okay, that are just absolutely just, you know, horrific and just, you know, completely, you know, shouldn't have been said. But people say those things. They say mean things. They tweet mean things. They promote. I mean, that's what people do. And so you've got to have that kind of thick skin. I could care less what anybody thinks about me. Now, what I would like to know is, you know, a healthy critique of the things that you're doing. Like when we're promoting, putting out our videos, hey, bring it on in the comment section. Let us know what you think. You know, what healthy commentary, healthy critique. That's all, I think, part of the game. And if people want to get personal, I mean, sometimes we may take some shots, you know, like we talk about, we use the words, you know, stupid and dumb and, you know, this and that. But that's just part of the process. That's part of the game. But we really, in terms of what Whoopi is talking about, is that she's saying that this affects her, or maybe it doesn't affect her to the greatest degree as it does other women, but that it shouldn't affect you at all because these people don't know you at all. And the thing is, Whoopi, is that for you in the social media, for you on The View, We do know who you are. You have let us into your lives. You talk about your family, you talk about your politics, you talk about your religion, you talk about your desires, your needs, your wants. You talk about all of that stuff. Any topic is pretty much open for discussion. So we know a whole heck a lot about you. We know where you stand on the issues. So when we are back and forth with you on social media, when we're making videos about your programs, videos about, what you're talking about, and we're making our opinions known on the different social media platforms, hey, that's fair game. That's absolutely fair game. We want to keep it civil, keep it to the topic, but if we disagree or we agree, we're going to let you know. And you know what? If you don't like it, that's just too bad.
We put that belief in our pockets and we hold on to it.
You
People
shouldn't.
don't know who you are. They don't know anything about you. Stop buying into the BS. Please.
So anyways, folks, we hope you enjoyed that reaction video of mine to the rear view. And we hope you enjoyed that. If you haven't done so, please subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification button, like and share this video so you help us out on the algorithms, and I'll leave you with my final thoughts. Oh, you know who you were watching. You're watching the Dr. Nasir Sheikh Show. I've been your guest host for today. My name is Dr. Sheikh, and I'll leave you with my final thought, as I always do, and that is when you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. We'll see you again next time.